What's going on, NCDC hockey fans? You may hear Dan K a little bit under the weather right now. Where has Dan K been at the start of the NCDC playoffs? In snowy 12 inches of snow, Utica, New York, covering 6 days of incredible hockey action with the biggest technical undertaking in the history of U.S. Junior Hockey League broadcasting at USPHL Nationals. And because of that, I got the sniffles. And with me, my left-hand man, my consigliere, mon frere from another mare, who also has a bit of a case of the sniffles. Lucas Jones, what's going on, baby? What's up?
Funny how that happens. I had to dig myself out with a sled because our Airbnb did not have a shovel. And yeah, after grinding our bodies into dust for the second consecutive year at Nationals for Premier and Elite, we have the sniffles. We are working on it. I've got soup on the boil. I'm going to knock this thing right out of the park. And, it's something where we're happy to do it because of the positive feedback we get every year from coaches, from players, from parents. 3 rinks. You're looking at dozens of cameras, dozens of operators, broadcasters, staff members, photographers, all designed to just make those 6 days as great as possible. Because once you're there, there's nothing you can do. You either have the personnel and you can create the media and create the content, or you don't invest in the personnel, and 6 days of hockey goes by the wayside.
Yeah, and about a dozen hours of sleep for Dan K over an 8-day period there. But finally back home in the Florida studios and ready to cover NCDC hockey. Lucas, we've got 4 series, 2 about to start in the second round of the Eastern Series out there in the Atlantic Division and New England Division. And then we've got 2 series in the midst of war right now. And I think that's where we start things. Let's start the Potato Zaddies stay alive in overtime last night.
So you're saying there's a chance for the Idaho Falls Spud Kings. It feels like all they've needed, Dan, is just a chance to prove how good they really are. The first 2 games against Ogden, they struggled on the offensive side, which teams have done against Ogden all season long. The Mustangs have great defense. They have great net minding. They're a disciplined, well-run team, right? And it's hard to run up the score against teams like that. They lost 4-1 and 3-1. But then in front of 5,000 screaming potatoes, they come back and win a game in overtime 2-1. Listen, you don't need to score a bunch of goals to win. You just need to score one more than the other team. And if Idaho Falls can come back again on Wednesday, April 3rd at 7:05 Mountain at the Mountain America Center, make this game 2-2, things could get really interesting.
Spud Daddies, more than meets the eye. Spud Daddies, potatoes in disguise. Play that on the Jumbotron, baby. Get that going. I play hurt here on the Dan K Show. We play sick right now.
This is your flu game.
This is my Michael Jordan flu game right now. Lucas, the big story for me is in net with Tucker Inabane. Inabane 1-2 in this series, a 2.46 goals against, a 9.31 saves percentage. This young man, start of the year, has played a little bit of everybody this season, man. This guy has played with the Rock Springs Grizzlies for 17 games, makes the move over to Idaho Falls. Played at the South Shore Kings. He spent 21-22 with the Rockets Hockey Club. Tucker Inabane is a guy we know well, and it's tough to tuck the puck into the net when Inabane is in the way. And I can see Inabane getting hot enough to bring this to 5 games. I think this series is going the distance, Lucas.
Well, with Inabane, it doesn't often go Inabanet. And that's
Hey,
you
all right. Have a good night, everybody.
That's it.
You
got the first name. I figured I'd come in with the last name. But I mean, look at the first 2 games, right? For Ogden, they're averaging the first 2 games 3.5 goals a game. In the Mountain Division, that's an average night at the ballpark, right? That's not anything that's out of the ordinary. And you look at how many goals are scored across the NCDC as a whole, that actually falls under the average of goals scored per game in the NCDC. So Idaho Falls, there's nothing wrong with the defensive side. There's nothing wrong with the net minding. They just got to get that offense going a little bit more. And I think with the 5,000 fans behind them again on Wednesday, they might be able to get themselves fired up and push this to a Game 5.
Look, there's great players on this team: Luke Steffen, Franco Cannavati, Tobias Omhold. You got a bunch of depth, but I'm going to do something no one's ever done. in broadcast history. I'm gonna reference both Johnny Cash and June Carter and Lil Wayne in one statement. I'm gonna
Okay.
reference all of them at once. Okay.
Okay.
Because when I need a big score, I'm going to Jackson because life's a beach. And I'm just playing in the sand, Lucas. And that's Jackson Beach for this side right here. This forward, number 23, wearing the Jordan number, he's got an assist in the series in 3 games played. He's an undersized guy, and you need depth in scoring. Jackson Beach is a guy that's going to have to come out of nowhere here and make something happen for this side. 8 goals, 10 assists on the year in 41 games played. I understand he's not been your goal getter, your top go-to guy. But in these big moments, we need the big players to make big plays. And you also need the guys that are that secondary assist guy, the guys that are that depth on the roster to step up. Watch out for Jackson Beach here, Lucas. On the other side of things, this Ogden Mustangs team, I mean, they're the favorite coming into this tournament in the western half of the country in the Mountain Division. They only have been beaten in overtime in this series, and the big story yet again is Brody Simcoe. Simcoe is unreal, Lucas. Unreal.
Yeah, he through the first 2 games he had 5 goals, including a hat trick, all 3 goals in the second game. But Brody Simcoe in the Ogden Mustangs loss did not have a goal. Actually had a couple of penalties against him, so he spent some time in the box. You don't want to oversimplify the game plan here for both sides, Dan, but it seems fairly simple. For the Ogden Mustangs, stay out of the penalty box. Let Brody Simcoe either number one make plays or draw the attention. Right when you have a guy who's hot, he's either going to put the puck in the net or he's going to draw defenders off other guys and have his teammates go to work. For the Idaho Falls Spud Kings, you gotta lock down Brody Simcoe. You just have to make sure that guy is not scoring goals. If you take the guy that's on a hot streak out of the game plan equation, I feel like you can go 5-on-5 with the rest of this team and compete. Not saying that Idaho Falls cannot compete with Ogden because obviously they just won game 3. But I think when Brody Simcoe is hot, he becomes a very dangerous person on the ice.
Yeah, 5 goals in a series. You got to keep him off the board, right? You got to keep Brody Simcoe away from the net. It's similar. I was watching a lot of women's basketball last night, right? Like you had to stop Caitlin Clark. You heard Coach Mulkey talk about it. That's the person you got to stop, right? And if you can't stop Caitlin Clark, then you got to focus on everybody else on the court. Is it easier to focus on the one or the whole? They focused on neither, and Iowa gets the win, right? They had 2 players with 20 outside of Caitlin Clark. Dan K breaking down women's basketball too. I can do it all. I can do a little bit of everything. I'm a savant. Doesn't matter if I'm sick. I'm doing everything I possibly can out here. Lucas, who wins the series? I think it goes to 5 games. I want to find out what you think here.
I think it goes to 5 games. I do think that Ogden wins this one. Ogden this year feels like even though they've had kind of their ups and downs, it feels like some inconsistencies in the game. I feel that even if they lose game 4, they're going to go back to the ice sheet and they're going to take that game 5 in front of the hometown faithful. But I think for the Idaho Falls Spud Kings, this shows how bright the future of that organization is. And look, in a 5-game series, a game that goes the distance, why do we love that so much? Not just because it's more hockey, but because in 60 minutes, anything can happen. We saw it at the Premier Elite National Championships. Those are single elimination games in the round of 16. Single elimination games in the championships, it's 60 minutes. It's a toss-up.
Yeah, and Lucas, let's move on to the next series. I think Ogden, game 5. I think the home ice advantage is going to get them there. I think Idaho Falls is going to win at home again. It's the best crowd in the game. It's the best crowd in junior hockey out there in Idaho Falls. Only rivaled by Ogden, it feels like at times. Like Pueblo's crowd, Ogden's crowd. You got some of the biggest crowds involved out there in the Mountain Division and all of junior hockey. I think every home game goes the way of the home team in this series. I think Ogden wins it in 5, and they move on. Let's go to the other Mountain Series. Utah and Provo knotted up at 1 right now.
This was an interesting one, too, because you and I have talked about this Provo team that has not been bad, but hasn't quite been as good as they should be. They've kind of been stuck around that 500 mark for feels like a month or two now, and they come out swinging. That Friday game, they win 6-2. That's a lot of goals to put up on Utah, and that's a very low amount of goals to keep Utah. Then you see Provo losing game 2, 4-2. They're playing on Wednesday as well. This series I find really interesting, Dan, because as a numbers guy, as a bit of a savant in the sports industry,
Oh.
when a home team loses one of their first games at home, that really has a tendency to shake things up, even in a 5-game series.
Yeah, and you look at it, this team scores from the blue line in Provo. Okay? And it's an interesting matchup for a Utah Outliers team. I feel like Utah matches up better with the Ogdens of the world. I think you've looked at this division all year long, and it's been interesting matchup by matchup to see who matches up better with who. What Utah likes to do is kind of play that NHL style up and down game. Up and down. We're up and down the ice. Let's keep going. Move the puck. What Provo's kind of doing is kind of that walk up across half court. Let's go back to basketball, men's basketball. Zach Edey Purdue style, right? Like kind of play things from the inside out. Ryan Coots, 2 goals the entire season in 31 games. 2 goals in 1 game to help Provo to a win. Ryan Coots is a difference maker at any level of the game. This 6 foot 2 inch tall, over 200-pound defenseman has grown into his game, grown into himself, and is an absolute future star in the game of hockey. Ryan Coots is a guy that I'm talking to you right now. Last time I said something like this was when I was talking about Chase Clark, a netminder who got drafted by the Capitals, and I said he was going to get drafted and things like that. I'm not going to go as far as Coots, not a draft pick, but this is a Division One guy. This is a Division One guy who's going to be killing penalties at the Division One level come one day soon. I like the way Coots plays. I think Division One coaches should be looking at this young man right now. He's got a bright future. This is a superstar in the game of hockey who comes over from Columbia and that incredible system. Talk about that Belichick coaching tree over there in Charlotte, Columbia, all those places over there. What a job by him. Luke Foss, 2 points for the defenseman there. You got Ryan Rothke with 2 goals. This is a really good team. The question is, are they going to get the net minding? Michael Polston's been great all season long. He's had a good one. He's had a bad one. They've also got Phillion on that bench now. This is a really good net minding duo, but are they going to play the way they've played all season? That's a big question. On the Utah side, Lucas, break it down.
Well, I feel like for the Utah side of things, right, the answer is in the final scores. The Utah Outliers are not a team that tends to put up a lot consistently, right? They'll have their peaks and their valleys, but what they do is they win the tough hockey games. They win the close ones, the grindy games, right? So they go down early against Provo in game one, they struggle to come back. In the second game, though, and when you go to ncdchockey.com and you kind of click around a little bit, you kind of get a bigger tail of the tape. The Outliers score the first 4 in game 2. 4 unanswered goals before Provo comes back with 2 from Rothke, but it's a shorthanded goal. It's a power play goal, right? That's where Utah's game is going to be. If you give them opportunities on the power play, they will take advantage of them. If you fall asleep on your power play, they've got the skill and speed to be able to take advantage of it as well. I just think that with Utah, their game plan is to score that first one and lock it down. They're a systems team. They're incredibly disciplined. They've got the size to be able to get it done.
The question is in Utah, and it's been this question. We've been asking this question all year. Again, it goes back to the net. Like in the Mountain Division, there's so much open action. There's so much speed. There's so much skill and space. You need a netminder to stand on his head once in a while. Tucker and Benet did it for Idaho Falls to get him to OT, right? We're on Dina and DeMello. They've each gotten a start in this series so far. Who's going to be the guy? Who do you go to in the big moment? Who's pulling that trigger? I like the way that both are playing at times, but you're just seeing the saves percentages both under 90% getting stopped, right? Is that about clear shots in front? Is that about things coming from the blue line that are deflecting their way through? What's the answer? What's the question? Utah matches up well with Ogden. I think this Provo team is a tougher matchup for them than most think. Lucas, who do you have in a series?
Well, I look to a series out east to help me with a series out west. The
Okay.
Jersey Hitmen and PAL, right? The Jersey Hitmen, who started off the season, by all objective measure, not great, right? And won their last 20 games this season, went on an absolute tear, took PAL to the brink, right? I look at a Provo team, and I kind of see something similar, where if you fall asleep on them, they are going to make you pay. But I look to the other side. I look at Rondina exiting the game on Friday, right, after giving up 3 goals. Then coming back and going 38 of 40 to get the win. That might be a netminder that has a little something to prove. That you know, you don't know what the right word is, but saw his performance on a Friday game, didn't like it, came
Yep.
back with a bit of a vengeance. This might now be a Utah team with something to prove as a whole. I hate to always go with the quote-unquote favorites, but I really do think that Utah was awoken by that 6-2 loss on Friday, and I think they're going to take this one.
I've got Philip Funky Cool Rondina with a shutout over the next two games, one of the 2 days, and I think Utah wins it in four. That's what I think. I think it's Outliers versus Ogden for all the marbles in the mountain to head out east for the Deneen Cup Finals. Let's talk about the guys out east now. Do you want to go north or south first? Where do you want to start?
Let's go north because I think that
North.
one is something that you and I have kind of seen coming this entire season.
Coach Timmy K, Timmy Kirkostas, Timmy K guy, Mr. Strikeout, Mr. Costas, Mr. Bobbin for Apples, Bobby Costas, Kirkostas, Timmy K. All the nicknames they use for Coach K. The one
None
I
of those nicknames are used for him.
one of the one I use the most is Winner. Okay, and this guy's a winner. Okay, winner's gonna win. Winner's gonna win. As I just kick my entire desk in my entire studio and we shake like it's an earthquake. He's taking on Coach No Holds Barred Holsky. Tyler Holsky, Timmy K, a battle of New England savants. We sit here, we say, how about them apples? We say, we're going to pack the cat. Who's going to pack themselves in front of the net? Who's going to pack themselves there? Who's going to do that? You know, both teams are going to be packing themselves in front of the net. IHC taking on South Shore, a 5-game set between two teams who just could not separate themselves during the season. Who takes it all, Lucas? Who takes it all?
This is a tough one. And this is one that, if you're watching this right now, you're only about an hour or so away from puck drop on game 1 of this series. So go over to Flow Hockey, watch it right now. A little bit of a flu game for myself as well.
We're both folks. Listen, hear us out.
Normally we try to hide it, but it's a badge of honor right now.
There's no way to hide it. I am not in a great spot physically right now. Lucas is muting his mic to cough off camera.
I try to be a gentleman in these situations.
And I'm not gonna. I'm gonna make y'all live the life I'm living. And the life I'm living is a man who struggled to get from the bed to the studio this morning. And I want you to know I'm looking at about 15 steps. It was a move this morning for Dan K. This was a battle royale for Dan K. This is my flu game. And I'm going to pull up jumper right now, Lucas. IHC, this is the interesting thing. If you asked me about these two divisions, what division in the East would have had a struggle getting through their first round series and what division would have not, numbers wise, you'd be like, oh, the Atlantic guys are going to roll through. Mercer and Pal are going to have no problem. And up north, IHC and South Shore are going to be in for a battle. Opposite. And that's something, as two guys who have watched a lot of hockey, we saw coming. Right? Forget about the paper. This is two teams, IHC and South Shore. If you told me to power rank my 4 teams that are left on the East for who's getting to the final, it would be South Shore and IHC, then it would be Pal, then it would be Mercer. So like the New England division, these two teams, they're the cream of the crop right now. They're the guys to beat. Even with Pal winning the Founders Cup and winning the regular season championship, Pal won it so early, it feels like they're kind of getting their legs back under them. IHC and South Shore, they've been in battle. They've been at war with each other all season long. IHC, though, like a Sheikman, you look at this roster, you look at what this team does. I mean, to lose a netminder, you lose halfway through the season in Frank Murphy, right? And come in with Ian Badgett and have him step in and wear the badge of honor as that starting netminder. 1.50 in the first series, 10 goals at 4, 3 goals against, dominating performance in round 1 to get through that series. You got a Sheikman, you got Filimonov, you got Freelove. Jake Freelove? Like one of the greatest names of all time? Like, come on, this guy's an absolute difference maker. Nicholas Aaron, you got Aaron Ackerson, you got like Joseph Simango. Like this is a team that just they can score from anywhere. What Coach Kirkostas is doing right now, he's been building to. This is the crescendo. I think this is his song right now, and he's singing it loudly. And this IHC team is going to be tough to deal with, Lucas. What about the South Shore side?
Well, I think for South Shore, you look at a playoff opponent who I think they had a little bit of a tougher playoff opponent in round 1 in the Utica Junior Commons. This was a Utica team that came through in the regular season with 65 points, 30 wins, 17 losses, 4 losses in overtime, 1 in a shootout. So it was a Utica team that maybe slowed a bit down the stretch, but was an ever-present force to be reckoned with all season in that New England division. I think South Shore, they had to play the tougher opponent. They won that second game in overtime, 2-1 at the Foxborough Sports Center. For South Shore, it is weirdly enough going to be all about defense. And I know that when you're facing a really good netminder on the other side and a really good defensive core, you think, well, how do we outsmart them? How do we make this game about offense? I don't think either one of these teams have to worry about offense here. I think it's going to be a couple of like 1-0, 2-1 games, right? Again, it goes back to this idea that if you keep it close to the end, all it takes is one. I think South Shore has a lot of speed, and they have a lot of guys who can be that one, right? The Islanders Hockey Club is a team that they have a ton of talent, but they're known for systems, right? Especially under Coach Kirkostas. They're known for their tic-tac-toe passing. They're known for their discipline. They're known for their teamwork. At the Premier and Elite level, we saw it under Coach Jay Punske as well, right?
Yeah.
But for South Shore, this is a team that has those guys. They have the guys that can play as a team, or they can split up and they can go lone wolf on a netminder and put one in late. They're no stranger to late game heroics. That's going to be South Shore's key to victory. Keep it close, win it late, try to take this one quickly.
What is my key to this series? What is my key to every South Shore game? I talked about it at the NCDC All-Star game. You got a fast Sakari. I got a ticket to anywhere, Lucas. And you got a ticket to the Mean Cup Finals if Sakari keeps playing the way he can play. I think this team goes the way he goes. He's got 2 points in the playoffs already in 2 games. This is a defenseman who can get involved offensively, can do things defensively. And he's a guy I love to watch. He's a guy I'd want on my team. He's an 05, 2005 birth year. A lot of time left for this young man. Left-handed shot, 6 foot tall. He's got some weight to put on, right? This guy can kind of build it up as he goes. That's what this is all about. That's what this level's all about. But right now, he's ready to go, man. 5 goals, 30 assists in the season, 2 assists in the series. And then Kataro Marase, right? Like, you just,
Yep.
you love it, right? They had Chikara Hanzawa, the artist, who played for Team Japan, with Kotaro Morase, who now plays for South Shore as well. This pipeline to Foxborough, Massachusetts, from Japanese hockey, and you're watching a game of hockey grow, the sport of hockey grow in Japan. That you want, right? The worldwide growth in this game is amazing to watch. It's amazing to be a part of. We get to be a part of it each and every day, right? We're talking to a few folks who work with Kitaro and work with Chikara and some of the other folks that have played in this great league. And they talk about how much they love the ability to have multiple international players playing on a team, right? And bring guys in that can work together and know each other well and speak the same language, not just the language of hockey. And Kataro Marase, though, a difference maker. 5 points in the series. He's going to be tough to deal with. Lucas, we get into our selections here. We get into our selections right now. Selections. This is tough. This is tough. This is trying to pick my favorite kid. Trying to pick my favorite kid right now. And it's easy to do. Tim Karkostas! IHC wins it! We all have a favorite kid. Every one of us. Just don't tell the kids.
No, you can never tell.
Hey, baby! IHC wins it. And they get it done. Ian Badgett dominates the net.
For all the kids out there, there is a favorite, just so you know. I just, because my key to the game is keep it close and win it late, I do think that South Shore is going to come away with this one. Because I think that South Shore can do that. They're no stranger to that. It's an IHC team they're very familiar with, right? They know the game plan. They know how to be successful against them. And I think for South Shore, they understand the task at hand very succinctly. And I just, after watching the body of work all season long, they know how to deal with this IHC team. They're going to be able to get it done.
Yeah, and I do want to say this. I want to backtrack from my original statement.
I want to be able to get loud and excited, but then I also want to be able to backtrack and be smart and quiet.
Look, I do want to say this. I love Coach Tyler Holskate, everything he's doing in South Shore. In no way is he not beloved by me. And Jefferson Mills
But
and
he's
all
just not your favorite child, that's all.
hold on. And Jefferson Mills and all the work he does and how he champions this game at every level, whether it's the women's game, the men's game, the collegiate game, the junior game, any league, anywhere. Cut from the same cloth as us, right? Just how much he cares about these kids, how much he's bought in and invested. What these guys do is incredible. I don't have a favorite kid. Tim Kirkostas, though, it's been a couple years coming, man. It's been a couple years coming for this guy. This guy's battled. This guy's gone through it all, okay? From bottom to top. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We're referencing so many different musicians on this podcast right now. It's incredible. IHC, though, I think it's 5 games. I think this goes the distance. I think this goes the whole kit and caboodle, the whole enchilada, the whole way. IHC wins it. Let's go south. Heading down south Only to New Jersey. Stop in New Jersey. Let's hit traffic in Pal. Okay, Pal Junior Islanders, the Founders Cup champions by a lot, by a mile, by a zillion. This team was the best team in the country all year. They continue to be the best team in the country every day, every minute, every second. Coach Mike Marcoux won the championship last year, follows that up with a Founders Cup championship, the first team not named the Jersey Hitmen to ever win the Founders Cup in the history of the NCDC. Can they do it again? The hardest thing to do in sports is win it the second time in a row. Can PAL beat Mercer? Lucas, who do you want to start with? I'll take the other team. Who do you want to break down?
I think I want to start here with Mercer, Dan.
Okay. Interesting.
I really like this Mercer team.
Robbie Broads.
I really do. Broads is a vibe. He is a vibe ever since we first met him.
Robbie Broads.
Mercer losing the first game to the Rockets 6-1 is a wake up call for them, right? It's the same way we talked about for Utah. Getting scored on by a lot in that first game, you step back and you go, okay, we got to put this into gear now. I think the big thing for me is how Mercer's able to adapt so quickly, how Mercer's able to not just adapt game to game, but inside the game, right? The game within the game.
The game within the game.
And they've got a ton of depth. And not only do they have depth up and down their roster, they've got guys who, again, can be the guy if they want, right? They've got a guy like Michael Sullo, 5'7", 160 at 04. A guy who has averaged a point a game in the regular season, come up huge, scored 3 points in a game against the Rockets Hockey Club, right? And help that Mercer team get to a win. I think you've got great goaltending. You saw it in the last 2 games, right? You've got a guy like Dominic Gatto, who in the regular season had a great year, right? Under 3 goals against, over a .925 save percentage. And then even in the playoffs, even though he's 1-1, still carrying that over .925 save percentage. So I really like this Mercer side. I think they've got a lot of depth. You can't look at their regular season record and judge them. I just think that this Mercer side deserves a playoff look because they are a true playoff team.
I love what Mercer's been doing of late, right? Like at no point this year has it been, I'd say, just absolutely pretty, right? In the sense of the word, it's not been perfect, but it doesn't have to be, right? You just got to get to the dance. Just get to the dance, right? Then you find your dance partner. Then you find someone to dance with. That's what I always told myself, Lucas, and I ended up dancing alone all the time.
Wait a minute.
I just gotta find someone to dance with, Lucas. Give me someone to dance with. No, but you look at it, this Mercer team, they're ready to dance with PAL. They're ready to dance with Pal. But I'll tell you what, Pal's like Cha-Cha from St. Bernadette. They're moving fast, they're moving quick, and good luck keeping up with the steps and the moves of this team, okay? This team's going to move. Heike Virtanen. 5 points, 9 foot 7 inches tall. I think he's the only man in the world taller than Zach Edey. Just absolutely dominating in front of the net. Ty Broad, Carter Hanrahan, Ryan Carney. You got Ryan Franks. You've got, like, this team doesn't stop. Colin Eschricht. Like, this is a team that's gotten better and better throughout the year. Nicholas Bevilacqua in net. What more apropos way to show the way the NCDC develops its players and sticks with its players through and through than to have a guy like Bevilacqua start his career playing a full season, never winning a game, to becoming the winningest netminder in the league in his final season, and potentially on the team that wins it all. Nicholas Bevilacqua, the storyline that would be. If there's one thing I am all about, it is storylines, it is promoting these players, it is promoting what they do. To watch Bevilacqua grow as a player between the pipes year after year, there is no one more deserving right now of a Dineen Cup championship than Nicholas Bevilacqua. This young man is a difference maker. He shows up in the nick of time every time. 1.35 goals against in the postseason. Now make your picks, Lucas. Go ahead. We're going to pick against PAL in that wonderful story of Nicholas Bevilacqua. Go ahead.
Now that I've just finished that heartfelt story, Lucas, what do you think?
He's gonna do it. Watch this guy. The dream.
I love a story just as much as anybody else.
Go ahead.
But sometimes the storyline is about subverting the hero's journey, right? And I think that there are some holes in the front lines of this PAL side.
I can see that.
And Mercer, again, a team that has seen them, a team that has been looking up to the PAL mountaintop all season long. When you're at the top, the only place to go is down. And I think Mercer takes this one in 4. I think that this is the end of the road for this PAL team, which has had an incredible regular season. You know, you've talked about Bevilacqua not just today, but all season long, about Heike Vertanen, about the talent, the depth. Coach Mike Marcoux, who just cares so deeply about these players and their development each and every year, that he's willing to sacrifice his ferry schedule to make sure that his summer players get the attention that they deserve as well.
That guy never misses a ferry. Right?
The guy has never missed a ferry in the history of hockey, but he's willing to, if necessary.
Willing to, if necessary. 100%.
Yeah, but I just, there's just something about this Mercer team. I don't know what it is about. When I watch teams like the Northern Cyclones when they took down the Jersey Hitmen, right? I call them the monkey wrench team, a team that is purpose built to just throw a bunch of stuff in the gears. I get similar vibes from this Mercer side. If they could take game 1, I think it's an even pick'em series through the rest of the way.
So you're picking Mercer.
I'm picking Mercer.
I thought about it as well, and then I just thought about this.
I will also say this, Dan, from a technical perspective, if Mercer does make it past PAL and also host the Deneen Cup Championship, I've lent the Mercer Chiefs some of our gear, which means that we could just use the gear we've already left them.
Smart picking right there. Smart picking. I love what Mercer's doing. I love Robbie Bratz. The one thing I will say is this. I think the worst thing for Mercer was that PAL caught a hot Hitmen team that got a game from them and then roughed them up in game 3. Right? Like, if you were PAL, you had the league wrapped up on like day 2 of the season. That's what it felt like. It felt like that day where they put up 70 million shots on South Shore and just dominated. Sorry, South Shore put up 70 million shots and just like got dominated. Like, felt like they kind of went, okay, time to flip the switch. Let's go win a championship, right? And you look at it, this is a team right now that has been tested. They've gone through it. They've felt playoff hockey. They felt the playoff loss. I just think that wakes them up. I think that puts PAL in the driver's seat. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think they lose a game till they see the winner of the IHC South Shore Series. I think PAL wins it in 3. You want to know how good PAL is? I just talked about another series a few moments ago, Provo against Utah. And I said the best player in the series was Ryan Coots. PAL didn't have space for Ryan Coots at its blue line. That's how deep their defensive partners are right now, that they were able to trade away a Ryan Coots, who is a right now player with a big future, and still be one of the best defensive units on the planet Earth. Like, this PAL team is deep. They are successful. Mike Marcoux, we've seen the X's and O's of Mike Marcoux. We've seen Mr. DeChara behind the bench getting things done. These two together are wonderkins. I love Robbie Bratz and the crew. I love it. Love it. I love Between the Buckets. Love the crew there. I just think PAL's got too much firepower. I think this is a dragon, and I think you're walking to their lair right now on Long Island. I got PAL. I got the Islanders versus the Islanders to go to the final. It's the Islander Cup. Why name your team anything different? Let's all be the Islanders.
Well, we've got 2 Roughnecks. It only makes sense that we now have 2 Islanders.
We got 2 Islanders. 2 Islanders, Lucas. 2 Islanders playing.
Here's a question. Does it make it easier for you as a broadcaster when the team names are the same, or is it harder?
Because you have to make sure you say them differently.
It just takes longer.
It makes it really difficult. I'm telling you that right now. The Islanders versus the Islanders. Islanders have the puck kicked down to the corner. There go the Islanders. Islanders turn it over. Islanders get it back. Islanders with a shot. Islanders save made. Islanders kick back. Islanders up by 1 on the Islanders after 1 Islander. I mean, period. No! That's what we got. Okay, you'd heard it. Lucas has Mercer playing IHC. Was it Mercer versus South Shore?
South Shore.
Mercer versus South Shore. Dan K's got Islanders versus Islanders on the east side of the country. The other side, Dan K's got Utah taking on Ogden. So does Lucas. We've got the same on one side, different on the other. Remember, the winners of the West will travel east to play the winner of the entire East. So the East has to win 1 extra series to get to the final. But due to that, they get to host April 26th through the 28th. 3-game set, best of 3, wins it all. Deneen Cup will be hoisted. Lucas Jones, your parting words for NCDC this week. Get to Eden, buddy. You got to get this out before 2 o'clock. When Dan K's on a mic, it's always hockey night, NCDC hockey. coming at you starting at 2 o'clock today. Islanders Hockey Club, Game 1 against South Shore.